It's been rather a long time since I took a look at Hell Let Loose, and in fact it's been so long that it's not even on the same continent anymore. Yes, Hell Let Loose Vietnam has just had the second of their open betas. I had intended to cover the first as well, but it's perhaps better that I didn't, as it would just be me complaining for 20 minutes, and who really has time for that? No, there is much improvement in this second open beta. There are reasons for Hell Let Loose fans to be optimistic, as well as some reasons for me at least to be slightly worried. I'm LCDR. If you're a fan of games like this, then please do tap the subscription button, and if you enjoyed the video, the old thumb up button too. I cover a variety of mainly FPS titles. Your support is very much appreciated. Also, in my normal full disclosure way, I want to say that the devs of the original Hell Let Loose game sent me a key to access that game. Yes, that was years ago now, and for that first game, but you know me, I just want to be 100% transparent about that sort of thing. So the first open beta landed a little unexpectedly. They seemed to indicate that their previous beta plans were gone, and it was just to be that single open beta just before launch. However, I'm guessing mainly due to feedback, launch was postponed, and now we have been treated to that second open beta, titled the Crossplay Playtest. There have been numerous social media posts talking about what they've been working on in the meantime, and performance seems to have been a big one, and currently it seems that they're still planning to release the game on the 13th of August this year, just a couple of weeks away. Oh, and by the way, the footage in this video is from both betas, so if there's no label, it's from the second beta. If it's from the first, I'll put a label in the top left corner. So let's start with that performance. The second beta, for me at least, runs significantly better than the first. Now, I have a pretty new machine. I've got a 9800X3D, 5070 Ti GPU, so you'd expect decent performance, and indeed I can maintain over 100 FPS with a smattering of high or ultra settings while using the DLSS quality mode, but with no frame gen. I would say that the option to use the hardware lumen, even at its lowest setting, does seem to reduce my frames by 20 or 30, and even to a graphics nerd like me, there doesn't seem to be much corresponding worthwhile improvement in the visuals. It's marginal. Trying the low presets also sets DLSS to performance mode. The visuals don't degrade as much as I actually expected. There's less shadow coherence, they warp and strobe a bit more as you move, but it's very playable, and arguably even have some competitive advantage in those shadowy areas. Performance on low, on average, doubled to around 200 FPS, and even more at times. For this, in a 100-player game with lots of object density, well, I'm a lot less concerned about Hell Let Loose Vietnam's performance for this August release. Though how it plays on older hardware, I can't say, but if it's in a similar vein, then I think that the game has improved significantly and impressively since the first beta. So if you did play the second beta, do let me know in the comments how it went for you and what your machine specs are. I'm very interested to know how broad the improvements were. Let's move on to maps, and if I'm honest, this one has some worry. If there's one gameplay experience that defines the average beta play session of Hell Let Loose Vietnam, it's not knowing where you were shot from. Well, that, or suddenly finding yourself standing next to an enemy, and then it's quick draw to see who wins. There's just so much dense jungle. The average actual collision distance between players feels incredibly short for any FPS really, and from a player base used to long sightlines from a World War II European theatre, it puts it in even starker relief. The historical nature of this theatre forces comparisons to other games that have triumphed when they've created titles around the Vietnam War, with Rising Storm 2 being the main watermark for me. That title definitely took what to most people would mean, well, every map is going to be a jungle, and produced as wide an experience as you might imagine from a game themed around this theatre. There were dense jungle maps, obviously, but also maps that evolved as you progress, from open rice-farmed land to smaller towns that give way to more open forest, then even some light industrial areas, and that's to say nothing of the purely urban maps. Perhaps what Rising Storm 2 did best, even in those jungle areas, their art style evolves throughout the map. Some areas were super dense, others burnt, others marshy, with tree roots exposed. It's all jungle, but each area have their own identifiable theme. And if I'm honest, I'm not sure I felt that with the two maps that we've had from these two Hell Let Loose Vietnam open betas. So much of the jungle feels the same. There's no sense of evolution to the generalized areas outside the points of interest as you progress across the map. Perhaps most stark is the fact that I've actually commended the original Hell Let Loose for this exact thing many years ago, and if I recall correctly for the Hurtgen Forest map. Yes, it's dense forest, but somehow the areas felt distinct from each other. I understand that many maps will feature in jungle environments for Hell Let Loose Vietnam, but I'm concerned that much of the experience outside fighting those main points of interest feels so similar. Yes, this is the only experience of 2 maps, that's all I have to go on at the moment. I'm hoping for a more eclectic mix of map types that the devs have in their pocket ready for the game on release. The original Hell Let Loose ditched the concept of recreating world areas as play spaces, so I'm hoping a little more artistic license is used in the maps to break up the experience of the very short collision distances and on-edge feeling that walking through the jungle defaults to so far. I say all this as the gameplay of fighting the points of interest is generally good. There's decent variation, things feel true to the world, lots of custom assets. The extended gameplay is a lot like the original Hell Let Loose, of course. Pretty hardcore damage model, and overall it fits somewhere between Battlefield and Squad. This being a beta, there did seem to be a number of balance issues, at least subjectively from my 10-ish hours of playing. Things like the US side seem to lose a lot more than the NVA side. I'm not sure that there's a specific reason or the culmination of a number of issues, like the NVA tunnels being so powerful. Comparatively, for the US helis, although obviously very cool, they seemed a lot more difficult to leverage their utility, and a lot of the ground forces were still choosing to travel by foot over shorter distances rather than coordinating a heli pickup. I think there's just a bit too much friction for that all to work smoothly. The vehicles also had a very Hell Let Loose feel. I tanked a little, drove a little, and things worked as expected. The helis were actually a little easier than I expected though, and even just a brief flight, it was enough to feel accomplished to move other players around without wondering if they were going to leave me 1 star on my Uber. Whether that means that the skill ceiling isn't high enough to satisfy the one-trick pilots is a question we can probably only answer after release and after more time in the saddle. Overall, the graphics quality in Beta 2 was better than Beta 1. The shadowing especially felt more cohesive and less likely to change abruptly as you move through the level. There's an overall Hell Let Loose feeling to the game, of course, making it one of the better looking games in the milsim category. Good texture resolution, high fidelity models and so on, though it still persists with that level of detail pop-in when you ADS that other games seem to avoid. The lighting might be a little bit more contentious though. I can understand art devs looking at the rich history of films made about this conflict and choosing to ape those cinematic vibes. The low sun, light streaming through the undergrowth creating dark shadows where vision is limited. It's shadowy and contrasty, and that's why I'm sure some people don't particularly like it. That combined with very short player collision distances mean that seeing enemies is often a struggle, whether that's, realistic or not. For what it's worth, I'm a nerd for this stuff. I'm a fan of how it looks. I love the cinematic feel, the searing bloom from the sun. It feels like I'm playing a film. The counterpoint to that being, although we've only just seen 2 maps, the lighting felt very similar on both. Yes, I like that, but I'm also looking for variation. Even dynamic weather like we have in the original Hell Let Loose should be the benchmark, and after all, we can't have all this jungle without a rainstorm or 2. Outside of that, I did notice that some assets felt very reminiscent of things used in the original Hell Let Loose. The first that popped out was the bombing run. That large VFX cloud thrown into the air had a rather grey European feel compared to the tan earth at your feet in this game. With the audio in Hell Let Loose Vietnam, we're decidedly in the mixed bag territory. I'd say some is acceptable, occasionally good, but others stand out as being just below par. The helis sound pretty good, like they treated more of that famous kind of whop low thud at distance that the Hueys were famous for, but there's little to complain with here. The weapon audio is okay, the AK fine, the M16 sort of fine, but things like the M60 just sound oddly weak and lacking bass. I'd say it all needs a pass to make them more dynamic and milsim-like. Honestly, it's the tank audio that I'm most concerned with. I'm very much hoping that this was a bug or an incomplete asset of some kind, but the noise of the tank firing was just about the most underwhelming thing in the game. You expect some sort of massive concussive explosion, but the tinnitus noise that triggers after is louder than the main tank gun firing or even the shell exploding next to you. Hell Let Loose Vietnam is released on the 13th of August 2026 for around £31 to £35 in the UK, $35 to $40 in the US, and the same 35 to 40 euros for my European friends. There's a slight discount for pre-order at the moment, and that's creating those little price brackets. They're saying 6 maps at launch, so that's another 4 that we haven't seen yet. For me, £31 for a new game in 2026 feels pretty reasonable when you look at other titles, and considering we've had a chance to play and see how it feels. However, if you only played the first beta and found performance lacking, I appreciate your hesitation. For Hell Let Loose fans, there's a lot of what you already like. There's a common feeling to a lot of the gameplay. The maps that we've seen have good moments and areas for combat. And if you've grown weary of European hedgerows and want something different, I can imagine you enjoying the game. For Rising Storm 2 fans, well, honestly, this actually made me go back and try that title again, as I haven't played it for, honestly, years. Yes, it's showing its age, but it's a faster, more arcadey, but honest sort of feel that I didn't remember from before. It didn't feel quite as milsimmy as my memory had remembered it. It of course had a broad spectrum of map locations offering very different experiences, and I'm hoping that Hell Let Loose Vietnam can also deliver a similarly impressive gamut with the maps that they've yet shown and how they plan to support the game post-launch. When I played the first beta, I could see that there was much to like, but the technical issues were just too much to look past. I'm honestly surprised with how much the game felt like it improved from the first to second beta. When that second beta came to an end, I realised that even though it had some rough edges and definite room to improve, I did want to keep playing, and level up my roles and unlock and try some of those new tools and weapons. Those moments with voice comms with people that you've never met, role-playing and playing music as you charge into battle, still elevate these games into truly memorable gaming experiences. For that to continue in this new theatre with new maps and strategies to learn, leaves me hoping that Hell Let Loose Vietnam will turn into a classic alongside such fan favourites as Rising Storm 2. So what do you think of Hell Let Loose Vietnam? Are you a fan of the first game? Are you planning on playing this successor? What about Rising Storm 2 fans? Let me know all your powerful thoughts and feelings by leaving a comment below right now. Like always, I'll read every single one of them. If you did enjoy this video, please tap the thumb up and the sub button. It supports the channel and helps me to continue to make videos in the future, but also telling you when the new ones are out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Take care.